Keeps getting deeper. 6:05. Happy Thursday. Great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. Man, that Harrison Butker story just won't end. And it's thanks to stupid local bureaucrats that continue to further this story. So last night, my phone started blowing up. I want to say it was about 8 o'clock last night when I bing, bing, bing. I got texts, Mark. I got, a bunch of other people reaching out to me. Look at what happened to Kansas City. So the official Kansas City X accounts, of course, formerly Twitter, put up a post last night. And that post at 7:41 read as follows. This is from the official Kansas City X account. It read, just a reminder that Harrison Butker lives in the city of Lee's Summit. The post was promptly deleted, but thanks to screenshots, nothing is ever officially deleted. Now, that was clearly a shot at Harrison Butker, basically from the official Kansas City account, putting out a post saying, Harrison Butker, he's not one of us. We wouldn't want somebody who is, strong in their Catholic faith representing our city. We prefer criminals and record years for homicides and things like that. We're more about that in Kansas City than we are Catholic men standing up for their families, standing up for their faith. We wouldn't want to accept any of that. We wouldn't want those people representing this city. Well, maybe if you had a few of those people representing your city, you'd be a little better off than you are now. So what they were going for, what the city of Kansas City and whoever runs the Dopey X account, and, we have the mayor of Kansas City coming on the show in an hour and 25 minutes. I will ask the mayor about that. And, I'm not going to hold my breath on getting an answer, but I will ask him the questions about that. They were trying to troll Harrison Butker and be cute because now everybody is looking for social media clicks, even if you're a person hiding behind the official account of Kansas City. And it's just gross. On so many levels, it's gross. Now, some people pointed out, well, Harrison Butker has shared his home, in different places online. Maybe he has, but also what effectively happened here is Harrison Butker, the Chiefs kicker, who, of course, gave this commencement speech that has gone viral at Benedictine College over the weekend. If you haven't seen it, if maybe you've been off the last couple of days, we'll certainly be talking about it all morning. But he gave the commencement speech at Benedictine over the weekend, and, he made comments that some people inferred to mean that a woman in particular should be sitting in the kitchen and making food and having babies all day. And that is not what he said. If you want to interpret it that way, well, that's just because you're looking to play victim status. But that's in no way what Harrison Butker said. That's not what he was implying. But people have perceived it that way because it fits a narrative. And in large part, it's also because they want to shut him up. They do not want athletes, Hollywood elites, people with big public profiles speaking to traditional values and just traditional worldviews. They don't want that. Harrison Butker is not useful to the media and to, in many ways, the progressive movement. So they will shame him and they will dox him, in the case of Kansas City, whatever it takes to make sure he shuts up and sits down, and also to make sure anybody who might view the world the way Harrison Butker does. And trust me, there are thousands of NFL players that view the world the way Harrison Butker does. But they will hope that he sits down and shuts up, and the rest of them do as well. And this will make them think twice about saying anything of that ilk. But for this to come from the official Kansas City X account, heads need to roll. Listen, I put up stupid social media posts. Some of you, remind me of that all the time. I am not perfect. I have made mistakes on my social media. But guess what I've also done? I've owned them. I've apologized when I felt that it was appropriate to apologize. And I didn't do it behind an official account of the city of Kansas City, which is owned theoretically by the taxpayer of Kansas City. Let's not forget that, right? It's different when you talk about me or anybody else putting up something that, you may have regrets over. You may have not fully shared the story of what you were intending to say. Something comes off wrong. That happens. And if it's in your personal capacity, then you know what? You can apologize if you so choose. You can do whatever you want to do. But when you're talking about a city, a government-run account that is funded by the taxpayer of the city, and the taxpayer of the city is, a wide array of opinions, a lot of diversity across the board when it comes to opinions of the taxpayer in Kansas City. For somebody to use that platform to effectively mock Harrison Butker while also doxing him at the same time is a disgrace. And Kansas City may quietly suspend somebody. They may slap somebody on the wrist. But I hope if they do that internally, a message is sent. We don't sit here and represent woke Kansas City. We don't sit here and represent conservative Kansas City. We represent all of Kansas City. The left, the right, all backgrounds, all races, both genders. Yes, there are two. Sorry to break it to you.
Talk about a bombshell.
That's what we do. And to get involved in this, by the way, in the name of clicks, is absolutely pathetic, is what it is. So Mayor Lucas will be here. And by the way, the mayor did put up a tweet about why this post was eventually deleted. And he wrote here, quote, "It was not an appropriate post for the city of Kansas City. It should not have ever been up." So he added a post last night that read as follows. A message appeared earlier this evening from a city public account. The message was clearly inappropriate for a public account. The city has correctly apologized for the error, will review account access, and ensure nothing like it is shared in the future from public channels. Okay, I mean, that's good. I appreciate the mayor saying that. He's right to say that. Do I think anybody is going to suffer real consequences from this? No. Do I think that we would know who that person was had they done something political from the other side of the aisle? Yes, absolutely. But something tells me there's not a lot of those people that see the world the way I do who have access to the official Kansas City X account. That's just my hunch. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong on that. But my hunch would tell me that there's not a lot of people who probably see the world the way I do who have access to the official Kansas City account. But you know what? If they need somebody like that, I'm available. Only on a part-time basis, but I can help them tweet out some stuff once in a while too, if they want to, John. 913-408-7957.
I was going to say, I think you're right. I would bet a naked lap on that.
And if you're going to bet a naked lap,
that's
all right.
Man.
Well, Mark, you're filming that one too, by the way, if we have to pay it off.
I know my head just swiveled for a second.
Mark wasn't fully awake. He is now fully awake.
Well, I'm pretty sure I won't have to do it.
Yeah, me neither.
I was going to say, it would take me about twice the time that took you probably too.
Well, you could walk your naked lap.
Twist my ankle.
No one says you can't speed walk it.
Well, that's true.
913-408-7957. It's 6:13 on a Thursday morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We'll get to you and much more. Mayor Lucas will be here at 7:30. We will announce our next guest for Politics and a Pint at 8 o'clock. So that is coming up as well on 95.7 FM. Well, the NFL felt the need to bend a knee to the woke mob yesterday, which is quite sad because the NFL could have stopped its comments after about one sentence, but they chose not to. So, of course, in the wake of Harrison Butker having the audacity to come out and say, yes, it's great if you want to have a successful professional career, but nothing will exceed the importance of being, in a woman's case, a wife and a mother. That's what Harrison Butker said. And then, of course, it gets totally lost in the conversation that 2 minutes later, maybe it was more like 5 or 6 minutes later in his speech, he talked about the importance of men being men in their household. I mean, gosh, the outrage that this guy has caused, given a commencement speech as a Catholic at a Catholic college saying men and women should value their families over their careers, is unbelievable. I mean, it's just stunning what this week has turned into on this front and how people have corrupted the message and flat out lied about what Harrison Butker has said.
I love some stories, so they'll itemize Butker's transgressions, including criticize Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I thought, well, wait a minute. We need to rewrite several articles here and attach that to any story about you or any story about me.
Yes. Man.
Oh, gee, if that's a crime, I guess we have to rewrite a lot of things.
That's true, man. That is true. So the NFL put out an official statement yesterday. NFL Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer Jonathan Bean. Gosh, I'll tell you what, man. You know, people often say, I should have done something else for a living. I'd be making a lot more money. I'd be off to the races. It's kind of how I missed the boat on being a DEI coordinator somewhere. Holy smokes. What a joke of a position that is, but it's across corporate America. I'm the guy that's here to tell you how you got to be more diverse and inclusive. Excuse me, how about I just treat people with respect regardless of what they look like and, what their skin color is and their gender and their sexual orientation. How about you just hire people that treat other people well. And then you don't need the official DEI coordinator clown position. But anyway, I digress. Here's the statement. Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. His views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. So what did Harrison Butker say that was exactly anti-inclusion? Was it the thing he said to young women that we just referred to? Was it the thing about young men? Was it the knock on Joe Biden? Right? The NFL, oh boy, we can't. You can't knock Joe Biden now. Claiming he's a devout Catholic as he supports abortion up until 40 weeks. What was it exactly? Was it like a pot shot kind of at Pride Month? It was a throwaway line, by the way, the whole Pride Month line. I thought about pulling it and making a segment out of it this morning, but it's just not worth it because it was a throwaway line. He basically said, I wish people celebrated how prideful they were about their Catholic faith as they are about what's coming up next month. That's basically what he said. I mean, is that a pot shot at Pride Month? I don't really take it that way. It was kind of one of those glib tongue-in-cheek lines. He didn't spend really any time attacking Pride Month at all. So the NFL puts out this statement that clearly shows where the NFL's head is at. And there's another message within the message from the NFL. The message within the message from the NFL is sit down and shut up. Even if you're on your own time, even if you're a Catholic speaking at a Catholic college commencement, sit down and shut up and play football. Unless, of course, you want to wear a BLM shirt, or you want to be sufficiently woke and talk about any of those causes, then please, we'd love to have you, right? Do everything you want to do. But if you're Harrison Butker on your own time, giving a commencement speech at a private institution, well, boy, we can't have that. That's not going to stand. Now, the good news for Harrison Butker is he's great at his job. He's in the prime of his career. And he plays for the Chiefs and the Hunt family. And I don't want to speak for the Hunt family. It's not my position or role to do that. But I would venture to guess, just based on, some of what you've seen from the family publicly in terms of where they're at with their faith, that at the very least, they're not offended by Harrison Butker. I don't know if they agree with everything he said in that speech. I have no idea. I'm not going to suggest either way. But they're not offended by it. And Harrison Butker has the right ownership. He's in the prime of his career. And he's damn good at what he does. So he's got those three things going for him that will protect him. Now, anybody should be protected from giving their opinions on their faith at a faith-based institution on their spare time. But sad to say, in this world that we live in, that's not always the case. But he's going to be fine. This dopey change.org petition that's floating out there saying that he should be, fired and all this, it's completely ridiculous.
No kidding.
There's 30,000 signatures on it. It's an utter joke. But that's the stuff that's floating out there right now to try to, once again, not just pressure Butker, but pressure anybody who might think like him into being quiet and being submissive on their beliefs and on their faith.
Well, and yet somehow I think if he were the kicker for the Bears in Chicago, who had the number 1 draft pick, it's the crap team, that maybe this would get less coverage.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to a broader point here, too.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are the center of the cultural universe in the NFL. This is, in many ways, unlike anything we've seen in NFL history. You have a dynasty that isn't just great at football. I mean, the Patriots were great at football, but they were boring as could be. Bill Belichick was a permanent grouch. Tom Brady was, he's getting out of his shell a little bit now, which I like after that roast a couple of weeks ago. But Tom Brady was Mr. Perfect, but he was also very private for the most part. He wasn't really all that interesting. I think he's getting more interesting as he gets older, and he's going to need that now that he's Fox's top analyst starting next season. But there wasn't a lot of pizzazz. I mean, the stars were Belichick and Brady, and everybody else just kind of intertwined between them.
I'm laughing because I'm imagining Tom Brady butting heads with Max Crosby going, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. You woke up the wrong.
So you've got the Chiefs, though, who are sitting here with the star quarterback, whose wife is in Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, with a head coach who does multiple commercials and is his own personality, with a tight end who is dating the biggest superstar on the planet, with a kicker who is now the talk of the NFL because he's got the audacity to give a faith-based speech at a private faith-based institution. I mean, where else is the NFL kicker going to be the topic of conversation in the culture wars in America? When else has that happened in modern American history, modern American sports history? It hasn't. And that's what makes the Chiefs such a fascinating product right now. And it's by the way, they have a ton of primetime games that were announced last night by the NFL in that scheduled drop. Oh, that Harrison Butker, man, how dare he?
The gentleman here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the U.S., and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well.
That was Harrison Butker also talking about men. Everyone's talking about what he said about women and his message to women, which was, you may have a great, successful career, but nothing will top being a mother and a wife. And then his message to men was not go out, make a bunch of money, and live your paganistic fantasies. It was be a man, be home, be present, be a father, be a husband. It was the same message to both sexes. But, of course, one of those messages gets corrupted in the name of feminism or something. And instead of just saying, no, the guy said put family first. And trust me, that was not with all due respect to Harrison Butker, it's not some message that is profoundly unique. What's profoundly unique about it is that somebody with this platform is willing to say it in modern-day woke America. And by the way, now, many people are hoping that he pays the price. Steven's in Kansas City. What's up, Steve? You're on KCMO.
Oh, Pete, this is fantastic. This guy is an American hero, man. There's a saying with the World War II bomber pilots, when you're getting over the target, the flak starts to hit the hardest. And let me tell you, the women issue, his mom was apparently a physicist. The New York Post had an article. So the women's issue is kind of a side issue. This is all about culture and him calling it a degenerate culture. Pride Month is dangerous. And he's right. He's right about everything.
But he didn't say that. But he didn't say that either. He didn't say Pride Month is dangerous.
Well, he said we celebrate a deadly sin. Let me be specific.
Yeah. We're as a throw.
Let me be precise about what we're saying here. He's celebrating a deadly sin. I don't care if you're offended. I
didn't say you should be. I just want to make sure we have his. We don't want to put words into his mouth like other people are doing. But anyway, go ahead, continue.
I'm just saying that he is correct. That's what they're frustrated about. Is he has his money, There's nothing you can do that will make him apologize. Nothing. He will not back down. He's going to tell. He's going to tell it the way it is, and that drives these liberals absolutely crazy. It drives them nuts, and nothing is going to change that.
Yeah. I mean, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it, man. Good stuff. 913-408-7957. Logan's in North KC. Logan, you're next up. Good morning.
Hey, Pete. How's it going?
Going
Thanks for
well.
having me on. Love your show and great work you guys do.
Thank you, man.
Hey, it's a wild times we're living in. Harrison Butker speaking his mind, rightfully to do so. I think he's got a future in politics. Mayor Quentin Lucas better watch out. Maybe win a couple more Super Bowls, and Kansas City Mayor Harrison Butker, he'd be a great fit compared to where we're at now.
I like it there, Logan. You're going to be running the Harrison Butker campaign. I can see it in your future, man.
Oh, yeah. But I don't know. I saw the whole Twitter, ordeal with the Kansas City platform, tweeting out that tweet about him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, who's responsible for that, and we kind of went down a little rabbit hole last night, just into the Twitter world, and you look at all the followers that are who's Kansas City's following, and you won't believe all the left wing nonsense that's tied in there. So I'm pretty curious to who comes to blame for that instance.
Well, that's good stuff, Logan. Listen, we asked the mayor about that last hour, and he kind of gave a answers, but he said he's going to be on it. So we'll monitor that, my man.
We'll see about that,
yeah,
Mr. Q.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you, guys.
You see you later, man. That was last night. The Kansas City official X account posted, quote, "Just a reminder that Harrison Butker lives in the city of Lee Summit." The post was then promptly deleted. Mayor Q then posted that was a mistake that should have never been posted, and that was wholly inappropriate. So we asked the mayor about that last hour. He said they're going to start investigating it today. But for the official Kansas City Twitter account to be basically doxing Harrison Butker and basically saying, "Don't worry, he's not one of us," is really disgraceful. And the mayor did say that his office did not oversee that account. That would be, I believe, the city manager's office who oversees the handling of that account. But, we're not going to let that one up because that is, so inappropriate on so many levels. 913-408-7957. Mistina's in Kansas City. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I was just wanting to talk to you about that Butker situation. I totally agree with everything that Butker was saying, and I find him wholly appropriate with what he was doing and where he was doing in the context, like you said, at a private college, speaking on his faith. How is that any different than when in 2016 Colin Kaepernick is protesting on the middle of the field during an NFL game? Like, that was inappropriate. To me, I feel that Colin Kaepernick was way out of line, and here we have Butker standing up for what he believes in a private setting, and people are just disgraced about it. I'm just confused.
Well, you're confused because you're right. It's not equal treatment based on which side of the political aisle you're on. So that's the reality, Miss Tina. And I'll add to that. Good stuff. I will add to that and say there's an element over the last few days of people saying, "Oh, I thought you guys don't want your athletes talking about, political issues." And I generally don't. But it was mostly about when in uniform. If Colin Kaepernick would have gone around the country in the offseason and did a tour about how, modern day slavery is still alive and well, I would have mocked him and talked about what a goober he was. But it would have been like, you know what? He's doing it on his own time. He's not using the NFL shield. He's not using, at the time, the San Francisco 49ers platform to talk about what his political beliefs are. Harrison Butker was invited to it wasn't even in an interview, right? It was in a private setting where he was asked to come to a Catholic college to give a Catholic commencement speech to Catholic kids. And that's what he did. And it's amazing. Kate was showing me some of this last night after the kids went to bed. It's amazing. You have former Chiefs players' wives who are still fairly prominent figures here in Kansas City. I mean, they'll be washed up in 3 years, but, they still want to be talked about and find their footing here. Their wives are going on Instagram trashing Harrison Butker, calling him a homophobe. I mean, all these just gross things. And they're just looking for their own platforms to grow. They're just looking for their own clicks and likes and everything else. And this vicious cycle continues. And where's Harrison Butker? Nowhere to be found. Because he doesn't play that game. And good on him for not playing that game. That's not what he's about. That's not why he's doing this. Jason in Olathe. What's up, Jason?
Hey, Pete. I just wanted to challenge the other professional athletes and people of a higher profession to come alongside Harrison and speak their mind, because I know there's so many people who support him who aren't saying anything, and all the negative stuff comes through, as it does. But I'd like to challenge the athletes and whoever else to come and just support him and lift him up for saying what's right and what people need to hear, because I know that it's just, we always hear the negative. We always hear the people that are dragging him down. I'd like to challenge them to step up and see if we can't just come back with
get some support for
right,
him. Yeah, get some support for him. But listen, thank you, Jason. It's not going to happen. It's not. Harris and whether that's right or wrong is debatable, but it's not going to happen. The NFL has come out speaking out against Harrison Butker's statement. Harrison Butker has a unique situation where he's one of the best in the world at what he does. He's paid handsomely, and he's got the right ownership group as well. If you're a backup linebacker on another team trying to hang on to your job, I mean, we'd like to think that everybody is just going to, speak their mind and say what they want, but a lot of people aren't, especially knowing if you are a traditional American, you are going to get raked over the coals. It's sad, but it's also a reality. And then are you going to put your livelihood at risk? I'm not saying, I understand it's a tough debate. Like, you got to put your faith first. And obviously, I would agree with that. And I think most of us would as well, but it's easier said than done. Vehemently disagree with this text that just came in on Harrison Butker. Pete, you do realize that they, the left, have you doing their bidding. They want you to talk more about this Harrison Butker speech. It's much the same as defendants in court. When they respond with, "I'm not guilty," it sends the guilty message. A non-response is more aggravating than a rebuttal, since they hate the truth when confronted with it. Absolutely disagree with that. They don't want me talking about it. They don't want anybody talking about it, because then they get to write their headlines and write their narratives and write basically Harrison Butker is a Catholic and obviously naturally he's a homophobe and a transphobe and, anti-woman and all this nonsense. No, we need to correct the record. I completely disagree with that. Silence is the worst thing that anyone can have right now. If you care about the truth, then silence cannot be something that you sit by and allow to happen right now. While Harrison Butker gets raked over the coals over things that are not factually accurate, and people talk about things that he said that he did not say. Yeah, he took a shot at Biden. Oh, my God. Oh, the outrage. Wow. I mean, he didn't call him out by name, by the way. He just said that we have leaders in the country who are, very much pro-abortion, but then also claim they're, staunch Catholics. And he called out the church, too, in part, the Catholic Church, for not calling them out. And I'll say, some of you did get on me when I mentioned that I was raised Catholic, but we left the Catholic Church. We have a great church home that we love, that we're inspired by, that we really like, and we're grateful that we found it courtesy of our neighbors. But, you got to find what's best for you, right? You got to find what's the best fit for you. And for our family, that's the best fit. I'm not going to apologize for it. We still have our beliefs, obviously, but we made a decision that, was in our best interests, and that's what every family should do. You still, of course, believe in everything about Christianity. It's just what form you're going to do it in. Harrison Butker has his, our family has ours, of course, with the same set of values and the same set of beliefs. And Harrison Butker noted throughout that speech, by the way, some of the issues within the Catholic Church. And there's some of the issues that I had with the church. So it was a very complex speech. And if you haven't seen it, it's 20 minutes. It's on YouTube. It's not an hour-long commencement speech. It's like literally 19, 20 minutes on the dot. It's a very good listen. And if you haven't watched it, I would challenge you to watch the entire thing on YouTube. And I will put it up on my social media accounts as well, so you can see it there for yourself. 913-408-7957. Larry's in Prairie Village. What's up, Larry?
There's nothing the guy said that is objectionable.
Oh, great. All right. Call's over. Thank you, Larry. Great point. See you later.
What?
I'm kidding. Go ahead. I just liked I liked your first sentence, but something tells me I'm not going to like the but part of your conversation. So go ahead.
He's painting a picture of the Leave It to Beaver world that left us in 1950. Nowadays when an average home costs $400,000, a young couple getting together, daddy must be making a lot of loot for mama to stay home and pump out the kids. I mean, life is not cheap anymore. So to paint this idyllic picture from a millionaire of like, here's what you do. The man stays, he works, the woman stays home having an exciting time raising the kids, and that's the way it ought to be. Well, I agree, but it's not realistic. Mm-hmm. It's realistic for a few.
Larry,
it seems to me like what?
He didn't say, though, that you can't do both. He didn't say you can't work. He didn't say you can't have a job. He said the priority, though, should be being a wife and a mother over being a professional. And he said the same thing to men, by the way. That same message was made clear to men.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if mama's going to stay home and daddy's the only breadwinner and you're pumping out kids, the male has got to get into a big paying situation in today's world. It used to be a guy could go to work at the plant, and just work a normal working man's wage. The mother could stay at home. You could have 2 or 3 kids, and everything seemed to work out. Those days are gone.
Yep, and that's true. That's true, Larry, and thank you. And it's thanks to our federal government, devaluing our currency for the last 50 years, in large part. And making the world more expensive through things like getting involved in student loans and colleges and health care and everything else. I'll give you that. Mike's in Lee Summit. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, I read it. CBS News ran a story on this yesterday morning on their website, and the story started out with the Butker thing, the negative slant on it and all that kind of stuff. So then they didn't end the story, but they added to it. And then they said, oh, by the way, it's been an embarrassing offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then they brought in the Rashee Rice stuff.
Yeah.
Totally inappropriate, totally not relevant at all. So what Rashee Rice has been accused of is against the law. What Harrison Butker did is freedom of speech.
Yeah, and
they
it's
tried
funny
to link all that together, which was totally inappropriate.
Well said there, Mike. It's amazing. I made this point yesterday. Kansas City sports media and Kansas City media at large and national sports media is more offended by Harrison Butker than they are Rashee Rice driving 120 miles an hour on the freeway and putting dozens of people at risk of death. Sam in Gladstone. Got a minute for you, Sam. What's up?
Man, I work with college students across the metro area, and a hefty portion of those are ladies. Like the percentage in Kansas City is like something like 52%. I think it might even be a little higher. But the point is, when I end up having a conversation of any depth with any female student, at the bottom of that conversation is, man, I'm just really hoping I find a spouse. And it's shocking. Like I'm talking to women who are like, yeah, like I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm in a 6-year med program. I'm driven. I've never got anything less than an A. But there's this deep-seated hunger for that. And why are we trying to defeat that as a culture, Now, I will say this. What? I listened to all of Harrison Butker's speech, and if I may, when he got to extolling the Latin Mass, I thought, hey, I love a foreign film too, but come on.
Thank you, Sam. Listen, your first point, though, about, that's human nature. It's human nature for women to want to find a man to spend the rest of their lives with, and it's human nature for a man to find a woman he wants to spend the rest of his life with. That's natural. That's what Harrison Butker was talking about. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's one thing to try to spin a story in your favor and try to, paint a rosier picture than what is reality. I think we all do it in our everyday lives. We do it at work. We do it in our personal lives, right? That's just what we do. Whether there's a reason behind it or not, whether it's what we want perception to be or what reality actually is, we try to paint a rosier picture than actually exists. And that's okay. But there's a fine line between painting a rosier picture and just outright lying. And Joe Biden on multiple occasions has been caught here in recent weeks talking about how he walked into the White House and inflation was 9%. It was not 9%. It was 1.4%. It became 9% in 2022 after, months and years of bad policy. I've given him credit in the sense that I've said inflation was going to happen after COVID. But of course, he took inflation and he put it on steroids. And we'll get to why here in a second. But yesterday, the inflation numbers come out at expectations of 3.4%. The Fed's target is for 2% inflation. Basically, they want prices ideally going up 2% per year. We have now had 37 straight months of inflation over 3%. Now, you might say, hey, we're down to 3%. We were at 9%. Yeah, but inflation compounds. Inflation is not like, start at 0 every year and go up 9% one year and 3% the next year. It compounds 3.5% on top of 5% on top of 9% and on and on and on we go. That's what makes it such a dangerous economic deal for so many, especially in the middle class, which is getting absolutely destroyed right now by inflation. So the president is trying to paint a rosier picture, saying I've got inflation down. And, I guess you can look at it that way. But once again, if you understand basic economics 101, it's not that simple. 3.5% inflation on top of 5 on top of 9 is pushing 20% over 3 years. That's hideous. We know what it's done to mortgage rates, to interest rates. It's been bad for people in the housing market, trying to buy their first home, for people trying to buy a car. It's been ugly for them, right? So yesterday, finally, in a press conference at the White House, we had a situation where a reporter finally asked Karine Jean-Pierre, hey, Joe Biden's been talking a lot about what's going on with inflation. But he has said in multiple instances that he walked into a situation where inflation was 9%. And that's not true at all. Inflation peaked at 9% in the spring of 2022. A year and a half into his time in office. So how did Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, dance around this? Well, it wasn't a very good job, put it that way.
I'm going to ask you about how the president talks about inflation. So 2 times over the past 2 weeks, the president said inflation was 9% when he came into office. Is the president misleading Americans on that? Or does it just not realize that inflation was 1.4%?
So, and thank you for the question, because I know that we got a lot of incoming on this yesterday. And look, what the president the point that he was making is that the factors that caused inflation was in place when he walked into the administration.
Now, stop right there. I will admit and say this much, and I just said it 2 minutes ago. Inflation was going to spike at some point in 21 or 22 because of how much money we had stimulated the economy with during COVID, which was bad economic policy. Not even in hindsight, many of us said that in the moment, at the time. Maybe you did one stimulus plan in the spring when you shut down the entire economy. PPP loans, okay, fine. But after that, any money spent extra after that on stimmies, as we called them back in the day, had real consequences on the American economy. Okay, fine. But that is very different from Joe Biden, once again, saying to CNN last week, and I quote, "No president has had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office, 9%. That's what he said to CNN last week. It was not 9%. It was 1.4%. It did not hit 9% until the middle of 2022, June, 18 months into him being in the White House. So Karine Jean-Pierre is not giving it to you straight.
He took office. As you know, the pandemic caused inflation around the world to be by disrupting our economy and breaking our supply chains. As you know, we had to act quickly on dealing with the supply chain. He put together a task force. You saw the president do that. And just a couple of examples here, or one example, semiconductor shortages already existed when he took office. That increased costs on everything from auto parts to washing machines by some measures. It accounted for 1/3 of inflation in late 2021. Many countries saw worse inflation than we did, and obviously, and we have talked about this, we've been able to come out of that economic downturn in a better place than most of our counterparts across the globe. Reopening after the pandemic unavoidably increased inflation by unleashing pent-up demand. Inflation increased quickly as we reopened. Annualized core CPI in the second term of 2021 was 9%. And so he was talking about the factors that were in place that led to that. And look, and I said this earlier, I'm going to say it again, we're going to do everything, as we were talking about CPI, we're going to do everything that we can. This president is committed to doing everything that we can to fight inflation. And that's what the president was trying to speak to.
That's what he was trying to speak to when he told CNN that inflation was 9% when he got to office, despite the fact that it was 1.4%. And no, he's not doing everything he can. He hasn't for the last 3+ years. Remember, I will grant you, and I will readily admit, inflation was going to pick up in 21 because of our monetary policy in 2020. However, the guy put gasoline on the fire in April of 21 with the American Rescue Plan. The $2 trillion package that was full of stimulus money for anybody and everybody. Remember that. That was, actually, it was March, the American Rescue Plan. $1.9 trillion in March of 21, when everybody, it was a year later. We all knew where things were at. We understood what COVID was at that point, and he dumped $2 trillion into the economy to combat the pandemic. And that right there was the thing that was going to skyrocket inflation. 2021 was a good year. Remember that? We were all living high on the hog. Money was cheap. Money was easy. Coming out of pandemic, people were, flush with cash. But it was only a matter of time because that's just basic economics. It was just a matter of when, how, why. And then, yes, Russia invades Ukraine in February of 22, and that certainly didn't help things, and that helped pick up and skyrocket inflation. I will once again grant you that. But the notion that this was never going to be a problem, and it was all because of, what happened in 2020 is just not true. It's rewriting history. And maybe there are people that are going to buy that, but, it wasn't all that long ago. I know part of me feels like it was 10 years ago that we were sitting here in 2020 and 2021. We had just moved to these studios at Corporate Woods, and the world was going nuts in a multitude of ways. And it was. Trust me, it was. But I also remember sitting here and talking to you and saying, $2 trillion in this economy, unnecessarily, right now? Does that make a lot of sense? You might have gotten your, what were those stimmies? $1,200 a person, 14, 16, something like that. Mark seems to remember it very well.
$1,200. I had to spend all of it on my dog.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Mark told me that story yesterday. He spent his entire stimmy on his dog who ate something that he shouldn't have eaten. But, so $1,200 seemed good at the time. How much has it cost you since then? It's about $10,000 more expensive now for the average family of four to live than it was 3 years ago. Were those couple of $1,200 checks really worth it in hindsight? I think most people would say no. And in many ways, if that's, the economic experience that people had to have to realize that the government cannot spend its way to prosperity, that's great. And I hope that people learn that out of the last 3 years. But something tells me that's not going to happen because the people in charge keep lying about it. Couple of thunder boomers possible this morning per our boy Greg Bennett, KCTV 5. Speaking of that, let's go to Gardner. John is hanging out. What's up there, John? Good morning.
Hey, Pete. Good morning. Biden's little Clint Eastwood announcement yesterday, it kind of took me back to the State of the Union where, like, he tries to, put on this tough facade that I just really think is kind of forced. And do we think it works? I mean, did it really convince anybody that, hey, he still got that, old Spitfire in him when he was VP and stuff? Do you think it works or just come off as like awkward and desperate?
I think, listen, it's a great question, John, and I think it comes up as awkward and desperate, but I think that's what Joe Biden knows, right? I mean, he's broken that out through his entire political career. But
Romney's, who was Romney's VP?
Paul Ryan?
Yeah. See, he was actually pretty good in that. In that debate.
Yeah. No, listen, he was. I mean, Joe, when he was in his prime, or maybe not his prime, but certainly when he was more coherent and lucid, he clean called Paul Ryan's clock in that debate. Now, it was unfair. He treated him poorly, but in terms of the debate itself, he absolutely won that. Paul Ryan came off like, a kid who was in a moment that was too big for him.
Right, yeah, and he's obviously slipped a whole lot since then, but do you think he's still got it in him, or
no.
Is he trying to convince us that he can?
He's trying to convince himself that he can, but I don't think the American people are going to buy it, especially when they see him unedited for an hour and a half that night, or those two nights.
Seven cuts? How many different takes that was?
Seven jump cuts in a 15-second clip.
You think he's got like a bunch of advisors saying, hey, you're doing great, Joe, this is great. The poll, does he even know about the poll numbers? I mean, does he even know how bad he's tanking right now? Is he even aware of it?
Yeah, I think that's why he's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I think he's doing this because he realizes he's got no choice. Here's what he wants to do, John. He wants to get up there on that debate stage, and he wants people to realize how much they hate Donald Trump.
Well, it's just going to make me how much more I hate Joe Biden. I mean, I just never really liked the guy,
No, listen.
It's like an embarrassment.
You're not alone, John. Thank you, buddy. You are not alone, obviously. There's plenty of people who can't stand both guys. But the calculation from Joe Biden is that he perceives the problem right now after this. It's not a coincidence that a New York Times poll drops on Monday showing Joe Biden trailing in 5 of 6 swing states. And by Wednesday, he's challenging Donald Trump to a debate like he's Clint Eastwood. It's not a coincidence. The goal for Joe Biden will be a simple goal. Get on that debate stage, try to, sound somewhat lucid for an hour, hour and a half, but really make the voter who's kind of on the fence realize that they don't personally like Donald Trump. He's not going to sell him on really, what he's done. Now, he'll try to, but his goal is going to make people realize that, wow, I don't like Donald Trump. Maybe his policies were a little better, but I don't want that guy leading the country again. He's got to make it about Trump. That's it. That's his goal. They perceive Donald Trump to be benefiting from basically hanging out on the sidelines and giving us 2-minute, statements every day outside the courthouse that most people probably aren't listening to or paying attention to. They want Trump center stage, and they want Trump derangement syndrome to fully kick in. That's why they're doing this. It's a calculation they're taking that I think they're going to be wrong with if Trump plays his cards right. If Trump comes out and just, explodes on the guy, while understandably he may want to do that, that's not going to be in his best interest. This voter is not about the MAGA hat wearing person or, the extreme progressive. It's really about a subset of the population. And when people say the swing voter, it's not just about like people who maybe have different opinions on different issues. It's people who are not paying attention to the news cycle every day, who start focusing on, the political climate during an election year. That's who it's really about. And Joe Biden believes he can come out on top in terms of likability in these debates. And that's what he's banking on. And then, of course, the media doing his bidding for him. All right, the Chiefs schedule dropped yesterday, and we knew some of these games. We knew the Chiefs were going to open up the season Thursday, September 5th against the Baltimore Ravens as they drop another Super Bowl banner. We knew the following Sunday the Chiefs were going to host the Cincinnati Bengals in the 3:25 slot on CBS. But now, as you've heard in John Anthony's news, they are also set to then travel to Atlanta, travel to Los Angeles, and then host the Saints on a Monday night before the bye week. Here's what's interesting. This is the earliest bye week for Patrick Mahomes, week 6, that he's had in the NFL. He's been very fortunate. Most of his bye weeks have been week 8 or later, some as late as week 12. And if I was playing an 17-game NFL schedule, 18 weeks total, I would want that bye week in the back half of the season. It just feels, I believe, so much easier to have that bye week in the back half of the season. Last year, it was after they went to Germany, which made a lot of sense. They don't have an overseas trip this year, thank goodness. But they do have a very early bye week. Now, you know, the other side of this is you may have some mini bye weeks when you're playing games on Wednesdays like they're going to play on Christmas. And RIP to the NBA. You know, the NBA used to view Christmas Day as like it's like a big breakout coming out party. The NBA season starts in late October, but the NBA unofficially started on Christmas Day. The NFL said, yeah, we're going to take that from you. We're going to put the Chiefs on Netflix in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. The NFL is king. And the Chiefs are going right along with them. The amount of primetime games the Chiefs have, obviously, is tremendous. And I'm counting Christmas Day at noon as a primetime game because, you know, you're talking about a Wednesday game. On top of that, they've got a Black Friday game as well. That's a home game on Amazon Prime against the Raiders. So basically, the NFL is using the Chiefs to help every single television partner that they have because the Chiefs are the hottest commodity in the NFL today. And it's not just because of, you know, winning back-to-back Super Bowls. The Chiefs are the cultural center of the NFL right now. Think about that. And I'll do more of this in a couple of hours. But you've got Patrick Mahomes, MVP, wife's on the cover of Sports Illustrated or is in Sports Illustrated. You've got Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. You have this Harrison Butker story. You've got Andy Reid doing commercials. The Chiefs are not just the center of the NFL universe because of what they've done on the field. They are the center of the universe culturally in this league right now, and it's not even close.
Yeah, the Swifties will subscribe.
Like
that.
Something tells me most Swifties probably have Netflix and Amazon Prime already. Now, you're telling me that Swifties don't have 2-day shipping on their Amazon orders? Come on now.
True.
I don't think they're adding the Swifties to Amazon, but listen, I get what Amazon is doing. Television, for the most part, is dead. The only thing of value on TV these days is live sports. It's the only way people are going to watch live commercials. That's it. Everything else is getting DVR'd. That's why, you know, people talk about, radios. No, radio's in a much better spot than broadcast TV is right now. You kidding me? It's not even close. Tens of millions of people every day in their cars consuming radio all over the country. I mean, there is not a connection out there still like live radio with its audience. And that's why the demise of this product has been way overblown. But it's mostly done by people in, you know, blue cities who are sitting on subways, not in their vehicles every day. But broadcast TV is hurting much more. And that's why these TV partners want the Chiefs. They want them desperately. And that's why you're going to see a lot of Chiefs games. They're playing every day of the week except for Tuesday. The Chiefs have a game every single day of the week except for Tuesday this season.
Only the second time that's happened.
That's amazing.
First time in modern NFL history.
That tells you all you need to know about where this team is right now and how hot this team is right now.